Good evening, folks, and welcome to Citizens of the World. As you know, we are, all of us, the residents of a swiftly shrinking globe, where what was once local is fast becoming global, and our decisions and opinions resonate well beyond our own borders. I thank you for joining me each week, your host, Al Zucaro, from the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere, Boca Raton, Florida, in sunny South Palm Beach County, for a pointed look at politics, immigration, culture, and what it means to be a citizen of the world. And I thank you for indulging me on the Tuesday show where we were actually out of studio, and I felt a little bit out of sync. It's so comfortable sitting in the studio knowing what you're doing and getting things ready. But what an exciting week this has been. As you know, on Monday and Tuesday of this week at the Palm Beach Convention Center, we hosted the summit, not the Summit of the Americas, we hosted the event that was the Palm Beach Strategic Forum. And going through that was just an incredible opportunity. It's the second year it's been done in Palm Beach County. The sponsors are getting on board: Bank of America, Forbes of Manhattan, Green Spoon America, Florida Power and Light, and a host of other internationally minded companies that have brought the forum to Palm Beach County. One KO with regards to this. When the governor showed up on Tuesday afternoon and was interviewed by the editor from the Miami Herald, I thought it was kind of petty in an international forum to spend most of your time just talking about a issue that is state related. Miami Herald should be checked on that, and that's just my opinion. But it was an incredible show other than that. Now, we did mention on that show on Tuesday a little bit about the conference that's taking place at Palm Beach Atlantic University. It's the inaugural World Leaders Conference. It's a two-day event. It started yesterday on Wednesday. And it features Tony Blair as the speaker, the lead speaker, with other noted people such as Ken Blanchard, the author of The 1 Minute Manager, Cokie Roberts, the veteran political commentator, and Tony Dungy, of course, of national football fame. It is an incredible opportunity, a second globally focused event that cannot now dismiss Palm Beach County as a destination of importance in the Western Hemisphere, hence the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere. Now, we did report on that. I want to congratulate Palm Beach Atlantic University for bringing that together, and reminded me that about 4 or 5 years ago in 2004, 2005, maybe even longer than that now, we did an event at Palm Beach Palm Beach Atlantic University, also the we being the World Trade Center Palm Beach, a similar in format. So I felt a little deja vu sitting in the audience of both of these events in the last couple of days, and thinking in terms of all of the efforts that we put in the early 2000 to 2005 period of time, which laid the predicate for what's going on today. So I'm very excited about this, I must tell you, and I look forward to continuing it. But onward and upward. Let's talk about the major event that's happened in the Western Hemisphere over the last week to 10 days, and that is the Summit of the Americas. The Summit of the Americas is an incredible opportunity to bring some focus on the Western Hemisphere. Over 30 nations participated. It was anticipated that this would be an opportunity to move trade forward. Our president went there trying to woo his counterparts, and actually, I believe, ran into a buzzsaw. Okay? The items of trade and cohesiveness were second shelf. The summit actually did not even result in a declaration of objectives, because there were a number of items that emerged that were not on our president's agenda, but apparently were on the agenda of many of the leftist-leaning nations in the hemisphere, and on the agenda of some of even the moderate-leaning nations in the hemisphere. Those things particularly centered around two major items which were very uncomfortable for our our president to discuss. The first one was drug legalization. Many of the nations that attended believe that the United States war on drugs has been a failure, and they are calling for legalization of some drugs throughout the hemisphere to put an end to all of this misery and economic hardship and the issues that have been revolving around the drug war for many, many years. Certainly an uncomfortable topic for President Obama in an election year. The second one, even more maybe uncomfortable, is the demand by many of the nations that Cuba be allowed to participate. And the United States and Canada have vetoed that idea, to be accused by the president of Bolivia of acting like a dictatorship. Another serious issue with regards to our president in an election year, particularly with the strong Cuban vote coming out of Miami, and his and most politicians' desire to avoid any suggestion that there is a weakening of the American position with regards to Castro. But the reality is, in today's world, the nations of the Western Hemisphere are seriously putting a lot of pressure on the United States, and that is taking its toll. One remark that I thought was extremely reported, that I thought was extremely interesting, was that the foreign ministers of Venezuela, Argentina, and Uruguay have said their presidents won't sign any declaration unless the United States and Canada remove their veto on Cuban participation. And it talked about the issue of America becoming irrelevant. We'll get back to that in a minute. But let's talk about what was published as the theme of this Summit of the Americas. This, of course, is the 6th. It was held in Cartagena, Colombia. And the literature that's out on the web that talks about it says that its theme was connecting the Americas, partners for prosperity. And it says that it focused on the role of physical integration and regional cooperation as a means to achieve greater levels of development and to overcome the hemisphere's challenge in several key areas, etc., etc., etc. Did not get there, folks. Absolutely did not get there. One of the newspaper reports talked about, gets back to the United States and Canada, who stood fast against Cuba. All country here, quote from Bolivia, all the countries here in Latin America and the Caribbean want Cuba to be present, but the United States won't accept. It's like a dictatorship. That's the quote that I was talking about. Now I want to speculate a little bit. We've seen in the past 6 or 9 months, and we've actually commented on this and reported on it, that the Iranian influence in the Western Hemisphere is growing. We've seen the president of Iran come here, spend time in Venezuela, spend time in Cuba, communicate with some of these leftist-leaning people, and some of those issues are beginning to emerge. There is an empowerment going on in the Western Hemisphere to be anti-American, and one of the reasons for that is because we have lost our influence in the Western Hemisphere. I want to lead to another item, and that's other influences. China has committed $6.5 billion to the Caribbean Basin nations for purposes of shoring up their influences. And you know, you wonder what people are thinking. They got to be sleeping at the switch, because even a lowly person like I can see that there's a security risk to giving nations like China and nations like Iran the opportunity to penetrate our backyard, the Western Hemisphere. And there is a quote in the Times back on April 8th, wrote an article, and it said, there is a diplomat, a man by the name of Dennis C. Che, the chairman of the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission. He says, I am not particularly worried, but it is sometimes the U.S. should continue to monitor. Okay, and what he's talking about is he's not worried that there is a security issue with China and other nations, and Iran particularly, getting influence in the Western Hemisphere. Well, I want to tell you, I believe that China's investment in these countries has a quid pro quo for their vote and their sympathies at the Security Council in the United Nations. I absolutely believe that. I think that that's documentable, and I think that it is. Here's a quote that I was talking about before. Still, some analysts say that they believe China will emerge as a political force. If China continues to invest the way it is doing in the Caribbean, the United States is almost making itself irrelevant to the region. How does the United States make itself irrelevant to the region? There are serious issues here, folks, and those serious issues are emerging immediately and right now. So I want to remind you that this segment, which is the segment that talks about international affairs, is brought to you by Fugazi International Travel, located in Boca Raton, Florida. And I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be in the immigration and economic development phase of the show. Be right back, folks. Welcome back, folks. We are now going to do our major theme of this show, which is immigration and economic development. Because of all of the foreign nationals and foreign dignitaries that visited Palm Beach County and crossed into the United States over the last couple of days, I thought that it would be an opportunity for us to revisit the B1, B2 tourist visa and how to get an extension on a tourist visa. This segment of our show is being brought to you by Palm Beach Investment and Finance, or Palm Beach Regional Center, located at www.palmbeachregionalcenter.com on the net. Visitors visas. Let's talk about the purpose, or the overview. Generally, a citizen of a foreign country who wishes to enter the United States must first obtain a visa, either a non-immigrant visa for a temporary stay or an immigrant visa for permanent residence. The visa allows a foreign national to travel to the United States port of entry and request permission of the U.S. immigration inspector to enter the United States. That's the general overview. The distinction is an immigrant visa and a non-immigrant visa. Non-immigrant visa is somebody who's coming here temporarily. An immigrant visa is somebody who's coming here to live on a permanent basis. We've been through some of those items before. It also breaks down into two categories, B1 and B2. In practicality, however, at the border, generally speaking, it's a B1/B2 entry. It's generally given for a 6-month period of time, and depending upon the visa that's in your passport, the distinction is made. B1 is actually a visitor's visa for business purposes. B2 is a visitor's visa for medical, family, and tourist purposes. Some nations, we've talked about this before, have visa waiver status. There are actually 35 countries that are participating in this, and there is a big push now to get the country of Brazil involved in this. I actually think we should expand it to other countries in the Western Hemisphere, but Brazil in particular. And just yesterday, the Secretary of State has made some announcements that there isn't a push to put 2 additional diplomatic posts in the country of Brazil to help bring forward faster responses to requests for people to travel here for business and for pleasure. The other day I reported to you, and I'll reiterate this, is 162 days on average for a Brazilian to be able to get a entry document or a visa to come to the United States and spend their money. Clearly needs to be fixed and done more. Now, I don't think we need to spend too much more time on B1, B2 visas. Basically, it's a temporary visa. Basically, you have to demonstrate in a face-to-face interview with a consular officer that you have reasons to return home and that you're not going to come here, overstay, and become one of the undocumented aliens or illegal aliens in the United States. Now, generally speaking, a visitor's visa is granted for an entry at the border, and most of the time that entry at the border is allowed for a 6-month period of time. There are provisions in the law that allow for a U.S. visa extension for up to an additional 6-month period of time. One would generally have to demonstrate a reason for doing that, generally have to demonstrate that they can afford to do that and will not fall onto being a public charge, generally have to demonstrate that their intent is to leave by perhaps showing their new tickets, and submit that to to the USCIS, or the Department of Homeland Security, for a decision. Usually speaking, they want to have a 45-day period of time to review the process, but you can ask for the extension up to and until midnight on the day that you were supposed to leave. And the interesting part of this is that once you ask for it, you can remain in the country until it's adjudicated. So in some cases, if people need a short stay, by asking for it, they get it simply by virtue of filing the application and paying the fee. And then if it is granted, great, and if it is not granted, chances are they're gone anyway, if their intent truly was simply to extend for medical or for other reasons their stay in the United States. So the visitor's visa and the extension to the visitor's visa is critical to the development of business, and particularly the development of these kinds of conferences that we've had here. Now, with that said, I'm going to defer now and lead into our segment with Tony Macaluso, who will bring us up to date and bring us some important information with regards to the International Realty Tips of the Week. Thank you, Tony. Take it away.
Thanks, Al. You know, I think a lot of Americans think that everything south of the border is Hispanic and Spanish is spoken. Well, that's not true. One of the countries that was a former member of the British Empire is a country called Belize. Stunningly beautiful. It's a country where English-speaking can certainly communicate with most of the populations, as well as Spanish speakers. They are bilingual in the country, but English is a common language because of its heritage. A lot of attention is focused this year because of the Mayan calendar. If you believe the Mayans, one way or the other, it seems like some people forecast that by December 21st of this year, the world will come to an end, or the second phase of a calendar that they didn't complete, considering how long ago they started their calendar, would just come into play at that point. So because of the impacts of the interest in the Mayan culture, the Belize country is blessed with many Mayan sites and ruins of this very advanced society. Belize is a jumping off point for the Mayan sites that are in Guatemala, which is a bordering country for them, as well as Mexico, which it also borders. A lot of the travel agencies, National Geographic, for instance, is getting narrated and guided tours through these Mayan sites, and there's quite a bit of activity. But it's not just the Mayan ruins that are worth seeing in Belize. It's a beautiful country, and like Panama and Costa Rica, it's less well known, but it is fast becoming a retirement destination. It's got a great climate. It's got clear blue water, known by many dive enthusiasts. It has the second largest living reef in the world, right after the Great Barrier Reef off Australia. I was there a couple years ago doing a real estate conference and had the opportunity to do a little diving off the coast, and I can tell you the reefs, even though I dive off of the Keys quite often, were stunningly beautiful. Spectacular, I guess, would be the word. And so it's got a lot to offer in terms of recreation and beauty. The Belize government started the Retire in Belize program just a couple of years ago. And just to give you some idea, eligibility begins at age 45. It requires a $2,000 a month income and a medical exam. There's no restrictions on foreign ownership in Belize, so you can go down there, you can purchase yourself a condo or a single-family home, and in fact there's some stunning homes that are available. You fly into Belize City and then get in a smaller plane and fly out to Ambergris Caye. San Pedro is the community that's out on Ambergris Caye. Looks a lot like South Beach, as a matter of fact. The beach is right there. The hotels and restaurants are right on the beach. When somebody picks you up to do a little dive excursion, they literally bring the boat right up to the back of the hotel. You jump on, and off you go out to your dive sites, which are within 5 minutes. It's been found by a lot of tourists and a lot of particularly diving enthusiasts, but it's got a wonderful climate. It's got a Caribbean climate. It's got great fishing, great diving. It's got Mayan historical sites. It's got a retirement program that can't be beat. It's pretty easy living. If it sounds good, get in touch with us at portsideproperties.com. We'd love to hook you up with a Belize broker that can show you the ropes and find you the home of your dreams. A wonderful place to consider for retirement for you boomers. Remember, somebody's turning 60 every 9 seconds. Why not turn it in a nice place where the living is pretty much affordable? Thanks a lot. See you next time. Back to Al.
Thank you, Tony. You keep bringing us some of the information. I have to tell you, the feedback with Tony's show to me on various levels has been incredible, folks. We are very grateful to have a person of his talent, his caliber, and we suggest that you just go out to the web and do TonyMacaluso.com, and you'll be able to find him here in Palm Beach County. But he travels all over the world. He's a very interesting character and a very competent realtor. Now, to my favorite part of the show, Fireworks in Politics, my commentaries. This is brought to you by Alfred Zucaro Jr., attorney at law. You can find me at www.alzucaro.com. That's www.alzucaro.com. It's my law practice, publishes my little newsletter, and we are very excited about that. At any rate, I'm going to stick with Cuba for the moment. How can the Marlins recover from the comments made by their manager, Ozzie Guillen, who is a Venezuelan national, embracing Castro and saying he loves Fidel Castro? They have put him on a 5-day leave. Jeffrey Luria has suspended him for 5 days. The Marlins are actually playing some good ball. The stadium is absolutely incredible. I talked about it on the last show. But I just do not see how they overcome this anxiety and animosity and anger, AAA, in the Miami marketplace, particularly with all the Miami Cubans. This is going to be a very difficult time for him. I don't know that his apologies will be accepted. Only time will tell. But it is clearly a demonstration of what I was talking about earlier. The Cuban population has such a strong hold on the Miami marketplace and on the Southeast Florida marketplace that something like a comment that made by the manager can almost deter and diminish the effects of what is a tremendous economic boost with the new stadium and its fun and its demeanor. We'll see how that works out. But a second item that I want to report today with regards to Cuba is the American Bar Association had planned 2 trips to Cuba, discovery trips, kinds of trips that just open up dialogue. And because the Cuban American Bar Association raised objection and raised so much anxiety and anguish with regards to these trips, the Bar Association has canceled them. And I'll give you a quote. It says, CABA, Cuban American Bar Association, has a knowledge base concerning Cuban issues and the Cuban, quote, legal system, close quote, as it were, which can serve as an invaluable resource to the ABA and any other voluntary bar that may become an unknowing participant in a propaganda scheme disguised as a professional exchange. Shutting down dialogue doesn't help. Dialogue is what's going to open up the marketplace. So I just wanted to tell you that under Fireworks in Politics. Let's move on to kudos and KOs. Because we focus pretty much on the South County, and I haven't talked about Delray in a long time, I did pull an article from the Sun Sentinel. Maria Herrera reported it, that the Delray affair is moving forward this week, and they expect to bring in 300,000 people. That's just incredible. Delray, Atlantic Avenue, clearly one of the best places to have some fun in Palm Beach County. I encourage everybody to go there. Delray is a wonderful place to be. Second, KO. West Palm Beach is in disarray again. The papers have reported recently that the new president of the commission, a position that I once held, so I'm not talking out of school, Commissioner Keith Jackson has demanded that the internal auditor must report to him all of her activities. Well, first, not Keith Jackson, Keith James. First of all, I have two comments. The independent auditor under the charter is independent. Second, the charter does need some strength in terms of what the interaction between the commission and the independent auditor should be, and that should come from the president of the commission and the body that was created to oversee what the independent auditor does. Third, Keith James needs to recuse himself. Keith James is right in the middle of a major dispute and a major finding of the auditor, and that is with regards to the housing crisis and with regards to his client, the Bishop Ray, and the redemptive and his redemptive church, and the homes that they built or did not build, the monies that they took and or did not take. Mr. James needs to be off of this. He probably shouldn't be the president of the commission. He gets there in way too fast a period of time. He gets there with an agenda. Mr. Commissioner Keith James is out of line and needs to walk away from this fight. And I commend Commissioner Ike Robinson for standing up and voicing that. Kudos. Boca Raton is looking to do something with a new park, and they're going to take bids for outside vendors to use to do the maintenance on the park and keep all of the ball fields in play. I am a major fan of local government using private sources to do some of the grounds work and the other items that local government needs. We can cut down on the amount of unions, we can cut down on the amount of pensions, and private sector people are going to do a better job because their jobs will depend upon it. KO. Boca Raton lacks communication skills to the neighborhood associations. There is a ton of stuff that goes on in the city of Boca Raton that the neighborhoods are upset about, and yet Boca Raton doesn't reach out. You rarely see its political leadership out in the streets visiting the neighborhood association, and the Federation of Homeowners is less than effective. I hope under the new leadership headed up by some of the new people that are in there that will change. And then finally, a double kudu. I just think that this is cool. I used to spend a lot of time in Louisiana, and the last word in the dictionary now is the word Zydeco. Z-Y-D-E-C-O. It's a form of music and entertainment in the back swamps of Louisiana. Anybody that ever has an opportunity to see some of that performance, be ready to eat a lot of fried foods and have a lot of fun. And then finally, we're going to bring this to a close. We are, all of us, the residents of a swiftly shrinking globe, where what was once local is fast becoming global, and our decisions and opinions resonate well beyond our own borders. I thank you for joining me each week, Al Zucaro, from the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere, Boca Raton, Florida, in sunny South Palm Beach County, for this pointed look at politics, immigration, culture, and what it means to be a citizen of the world. Good night now.